Hello friends, my name is Dalit Soni and you are watching Polity This week by Drishti IAS. In this episode, we will be discussing certain topics from the polity which has been in news in the past week. So let's see which topics we are discussing today. So first we will be discussing the budget. You know that budget has been presented in the parliament and we will be talking about the constitutional provisions. We will be talking about the static portion over here. We have discussed the budget in our various programs like in news, in the budget special as well as in our news analysis. But here we will be focusing on the constitutional provisions, what provisions are given in the constitution. Then we will be talking about the parliamentary session. Since this is the session which has started, now this is supposed to be a monsoon session, but budget has been passed in this session, so it can be a budget session as well. So we will be talking about these parliamentary sessions, how these are decided and how we will see when and who will convene this session. Okay, then we'll talk about the National Flag Day. So 22nd of the July, 22nd July is celebrated as National Flag Day in India. So we'll be talking about the national flag. We will be talking about how this flag came, how it was adopted, when it was adopted, and what were the resolutions with respect to such this flag which has been which has become the national flag of India. We will talk about all these things. We will also see what are the statute which are talking about the flag and how it should be hoisted. Okay, then what is the split verdict? Recently there was a case with respect to genetically modified mustard, and this case was there in front of Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has actually given a split verdict. So we will talk about what is split verdict and when it happens, what is the next step. Okay, then in the last we will be talking about the right to be forgotten. Recently there was this news which was related to the right to be forgotten of a person who was accused in a criminal offense. So we will be talking about that. Okay, so let's start with the first one, that is budget. When we talk about budget, it comes to our mind, let's say let's take a simple example. When we talk about our own household, okay, so we actually take care of our budget. We will see how much money we have, how much money we need to save, how much money we can expend. So this kind of calculations which are done on the household level, this is called budgeting, and this is done at the government's level as well, and this is what is your government budget which has been actually presented in the parliament recently. Okay, so union budget 2024-25 has been presented. In the February they have actually gone for the interim budget. Okay, so interim budget was the, you can say, till the full-fledged budget is coming, or the till the time the new government is coming into the power, they have gone for a interim budget, and they have said that after the elections they will go for the full-fledged budget, and now after the election we have this full-fledged budget. Okay, so now in the budget they will talk about the government's expenditure. They will talk about first how this money is coming. Okay, so first they will talk about the revenue, then they will also talk about the expenditure. In the budget they will also talk about certain things about the government's policies, how they are planning things to happen. All these things will be covered in the budget. Okay, then there is this FRBM Act which talks about certain documents which has to be presented with the budget, so that is also there. Now we will be talking about the constitutional provision. We will be talking about the static part of the budget with respect to polity. Okay, so let's see over here. Indian Constitution does not mention the term budget. If you go through the Constitution, you will not find that the term budget is mentioned over there or not. Okay, so basically we can say that budget is not mentioned in the Constitution, but in place of budget they talk about an annual financial statement. Okay, so annual financial statement is basically nothing but the budget, but that is a technical term which has been given in the Constitution, and that term has been talked about in Article 112 of the Constitution. Okay, so this become important for you. Now budget division of the Department of Economic Affairs. Now this is important. Department of Economic Affairs in the Finance Ministry is the nodal body responsible for preparing the budget. Okay, so this is the Department of Economic Affairs in the Finance Ministry. They will be forming the budget. Okay, other than that, before budget they also go for the presentation of economic survey. Okay, so that is also important for you, so you can go and watch the summary of economic survey as well. Okay, now coming to the discussion again, here you will see it is a statement of estimated receipt and expenditure, what is coming in and what is going out. Okay, so it is a statement of the estimated receipt and the expenditure of the government in a financial year which begins from April 1st to March 31st of the next year. So that is important for you to remember. In addition to the budget, they will contain, when we are talking about the document, they will contain various other things as well. So in addition to the estimated receipt and the expenditure, they will also have estimates of the revenue, capital receipts, way and means advances. Then you will see estimate of expenditure, details of actual receipt and the expenditure of closing financial year, and the reason why any deficit or surplus was there in that particular year. So basically they will give you the real picture of the last year, okay, and that they will also tell you that what was deficit, and whether there was any deficit or the surplus, they will tell you what were the reason behind it, okay. So basically that is kind of a review of an economy which they will be giving. Then the economic and the financial policies of the coming year. So that is the second thing, they will talk about the coming year, taxation proposals, prospects of the revenue, spending programs, introduction of the new schemes, etc. So basically a budget document is a comprehensive document wherein government will be talking about the expenditure, receipts. They will also talking about various schemes they are planning. They will see if there was a surplus or a deficit. They will talk about it, why there was this particular thing. So you can say that it is kind of a review of the government's functioning or the government's point of view of the economy, okay. Now moving further, you will see here Article 112. We have said that the annual financial statement, that is the word which is mentioned in the Article 112 and which is actually the budget. So article says that the president shall every financial year cause to lay an annual financial statement before the houses of the parliament, a statement of estimated receipt and the expenditure of the government of India. So who will require to actually put or the lay this budget in the, you can say, parliament, that is president, and on the behalf of president then finance minister will be doing it, okay. So this time our finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman has presented the budget, okay. Then article 113, no demand for grant shall be made except on the recommendation of the president, okay. So recommendation of the president is required over here. Then moving further, article 114, that is no amount can be withdrawn from the consolidated fund of India without authorization from the parliament. Now they have mentioned a word, that is consolidated fund of India, okay. So we have fund when we are talking about the consolidated fund of India. So basically whatever government is earning, or the whatever receipt or you can say whatever entities or the money government is receiving, and that particular money will go to the consolidated fund of India, and then whatever expenditure is there, or when you are required to take money out of that particular fund, then you will require a authorization from the parliament, okay. So that is what is given over here, that for any kind of withdrawal from the consolidated fund of India, you will require an authorization of the parliament, okay. Now coming to the next article, that is article 2 to 6, all revenue received by the government shall be credited to the consolidated fund of India, which we have talked about. Then all other public money such as the provident fund, postal insurances shall be credited to the public account of India. Now there are three kind of funds if you talk about. One is your consolidated fund of India, okay. Then there is contingency fund, okay, and then this is there, that is public account, okay. We have consolidated fund of India, contingency fund of India, and then public accounts. When we are talking about the consolidated fund, we have seen that all kind of revenues will be going to that particular fund, and expenditure will require authorization from the parliament. Then contingency fund, this fund will be created by the parliament itself. This fund will be there for the emergencies. Let's say if there is some emergency and government requires fund, but parliament is not in session, and without parliament's authorization you will not be getting fund from the consolidated fund of India. In that case, parliament can take fund from this contingency fund, okay, and that fund is basically will remain under the president, okay. So that is there. After that, there is this public accounts of India, that is basically over here we have seen that any other kind of money which is related to either your provident funds, postal or insurances, etc., that will be there in the public accounts. You can say that this public account of India is basically a kind of liability on the government. This is the public's money which is with the government and which is to be given back to the public, okay. So that is there. Next is article 267, that is parliament may by law establish a contingency fund of India to meet unexpected or unforeseen expenditure, which we have discussed, okay. I hope that is clear. Now moving further, that will be the last discussion with respect to the budget, like what are the steps, okay, when we are talking about the budget, presentation of the budget in the parliament and passing of the budget. Till then, what are the steps, okay. So first you will see presentation of the budget. you know that recently finance minister has actually presented the budget, okay, and president is required, or president is basically you can say he will ask the government to lay the budget in the, you can say, parliament, okay. So president finance minister has actually presented the budget in the parliament, okay. Once the budget is presented, he or she will go for the speech in the parliament. They will tell all the, you can say, the document will be read out in the parliament, okay. Then after that there will be a general discussion on the points of the budget. There will be a discussion. After that particular discussion, this particular budget or the document will be, you know, given to various committees, that is departmental committees will be there. They will scrutinize this, okay. There will be discussions and debates in that particular committee. They will scrutinize the you can say budget, or for various department how much budget is given. They will scrutinize for the whole you can say document. Then voting on the demands for the grants. Once this scrutiny is done, then they will come back to the parliament. Then there will be a voting, and that voting will be there on the demands of grants, okay. After that there will be passing of appropriation bill, okay. So whenever you want to take money out of Consolidated Fund of India, you will have to pass this appropriation bill, okay. Then there will be the passing of the finance bill, that is basically including your budget, everything will be there, and they will pass the finance bill, and that is how the process will end, okay. So this is important for you. These are the 6 steps in which budget is basically, you can say, passed. Here you will see the last appropriation bill and the finance bill. That is important for you to remember. While when we are talking about the budget, appropriation bill is to, you know, take out the money from the Consolidated Fund of India, and then we are talking about the passing of the finance bill. That is basically the final step wherein the budget is passed, okay. So that is about your budget. Now coming to the next article, which is basically related to the sessions of the parliament, okay. Sessions of the parliament here means that parliament, when we are talking about Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha and president, you know that president is also the part of parliament. Now president's role is here when we are talking about the sessions. The role of president is to convey the session, or you can say the call the session, okay. So that is one thing. Other than that, Rajya Sabha is the, you can say, permanent chamber, okay, but it will also be the recess will also be there. The you can say the time gap between one session and the second session, that is basically recess, okay. So Lok Sabha is also operating in the sessions, okay, different session. When we are talking about India, we are having normally as a convention we are having 3 sessions. We will be talking about that, okay. So basically session of a parliament, or you can say that the session is going on. That means that the Lok Sabha or the other house, they are basically meeting, and they are going for the debate and the discussion in the parliament, okay. Now talking about the static part of the constitution provision, here you will see the summoning of the parliament is specified in article 85, okay. Who will summon? That is president. Here you will see summoning of the parliament is specified in article 85 of the constitution. The power to convene a session of parliament rests with the government. The decision is taken by the cabinet committee on the parliamentary affairs. Now they are saying that power to convene the session, that is resting with the government. Government will decide on it, and then they will tell the president, and president will call the session, okay. So here that power is with the government. Then the decision is taken by the cabinet committee on the parliamentary affairs, which is formalized by the president. Ultimately it will be formalized by the president, in whose name MPs are basically summoned to meet, okay. So that is basically, you can say, how parliament is summoned or convened, okay. India does not have a fixed parliamentary calendar. We do not have a fixed time at which the session will meet, but there is this thing that there will not be a gap of more than 6 months. Then the thing is, conventionally if we see, we are going for the 3 sessions in a year, okay. These sessions are basically, here you will be see a budget session, then a monsoon session and a winter session, okay. Now here you will be see, when we are talking about the first session, that is budget session, here it is the longest one, okay. It is the longest one, started towards the end of the January and conducted by the or you can say it ends by the month of April or the first week of May, okay. Because the thing is, the budget session is longest because first they will be presenting the budget, then there will be general discussion, after that there will be scrutiny for a while, and once that scrutiny is done, then the appropriation bill will be you can say passed, and then finance bill will be passed. All these process takes time, and that is why this is the longest session, okay. But most of the time you will see that particular session happens from the January to May, okay. But this time you will see that the budget session, right now when we are talking about, this is supposed to be a monsoon session, but again budget is passed in this session. So there is no clear cut definitions which are provided in our constitution, etc. So these are basically conventions. Okay, so right now in the monsoon session we are going for the budget, so you can call it as a budget session as well. Okay, so that is generally from January to May. Then the session has a recess so that the parliamentary committee can discuss the budgetary proposals. Okay, so that is there. Then when we are talking about the recess, that is basically the one sitting to second sitting, whatever difference is there. Okay, so then moving further, monsoon session, that is the second session, a 3-week session which usually begins in July and finishes in the August. Okay, so that is the monsoon session. And then the winter session, that is from the November to December. So basically these are the 3 sessions: budget session, monsoon session and the winter session. There is no clear cut timeline for that, but the thing is, as per the conventions, these are basically the, you can say, 3 sessions and their respective timelines. Okay, now moving further, there is another session of parliament, that is joint session of the parliament. Okay, that is a different terminology. Whenever there is a deadlock on a particular bill, okay, if there is a proposal of a bill and then there is a deadlock on that particular bill, at that point of time president will call for a joint session. Okay, but there are some exceptions as well. We will talk about that. So why this session is called? Because let's say a bill is passed from Lok Sabha and it is sent to the Rajya Sabha, and Rajya Sabha has not passed this bill and they have not amended that, but they did not actually reply with respect to that. Now the thing is, at that point of time, you can say there is a deadlock. Okay, so here you will see a joint session is summoned by the President of India under the following circumstances: rejection of a bill by the other house, if a bill is passed by one house and rejected by the other house. Okay, so in that case, second is disagreement on the amendments, if there is a disagreement between the house, between the 2 houses on the amendments made to the bill. Then third is the non-passage within the 6 months by the house. The period of 6 months does not include the days when the house is prorogued for or adjourned for more than the 4 consecutive days. Okay, so basically they are talking about here, whenever there is a deadlock, they will go for the calling of a session, that is a joint session. Okay, in the joint session mostly you will see that the Lok Sabha will have advantage or the government will have advantage, because if government has a majority in Lok Sabha, okay, so there are high chances that they might go for the clearance of that particular bill. Okay, anyways, so that is about the joint session. Who will preside the joint session? Mostly the Speaker of the Lok Sabha will preside the joint session. If he is not present, in that case Deputy Speaker of the Lok Sabha will preside, and if both of them are not present, then the Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, he will preside the session. Okay, Deputy Chairman and make sure that you don't confuse that Chairman of the Rajya Sabha will not preside the joint session in any way. Okay, so that is there. If Speaker is there, Speaker will preside. If Speaker is not there, then Deputy Speaker of the Lok Sabha will preside. And if the Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha is not there, then in that case you will see that Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, he will be presiding the session. Okay, if none of the officers are present, then at that point other member of parliament can preside by the consensus of the both houses. Okay, then moving to the exceptions of the joint sitting. So there are certain exceptions in which joint sitting is not done. Okay, one is money bill. In money bill, Rajya Sabha has limited power. Okay, Rajya Sabha can only recommend some kind of changes, but they cannot go for the making any kind of changes on their own. Second thing is, Rajya Sabha does not have any kind of you can say concrete power with respect to the money bill, and that is why they will not go for the joint session on the money bill. Second is Constitution Amendment Bill. Okay, so when we are talking about the Article 368 of the Constitution that talks about the amendability of the Constitution, at that point of time, in that case also joint session is not called in for, because the thing is, when we are talking about the joint session, as I told you, there are high chances that Lok Sabha will have the upper hand, or because if the government has the majority in the Lok Sabha, then they will have the number. In that case, the Constitution Amendment Bill is not put for the joint session. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Now we can move further. That is basically the National Flag Adoption Day. Recently we have celebrated it 22nd of July. Okay, so when we are talking about the national flag, you know that there are some kind of sentiments. There is this psychological as well as emotional sentiments which are attached with the national flag, because it gives us the feeling that how much struggle the freedom fighters has done for this particular freedom. So it is a symbol of freedom and unity for our country. Okay, so we are celebrating it as a National Flag Adoption Day on the 22nd of July. Now let's talk about this particular event which is happened. the Constituent Assembly adopted national flag on July 2nd, 1947. Okay. When we are talking about the symbolism, as I told you, this is a symbol of our struggle for independence, freedom, unity, etc. And this also, shows the commitment we have for the justice, liberty, and the equality. Okay. Now, when we are talking about the design, it consists of 3 horizontal strips of the saffron, white, and the green color, and having Ashok Chakra at the center. We are very well aware of that particular fact. Okay. Now, when we are talking about our first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, he has said that he has described the tricolor as a flag of freedom, not only for ourselves, but a symbol of freedom to all people who may see it. Basically, when we are talking about when this flag was adopted, at that point of time, many countries were actually colonies of British Empire. Okay. Otherwise also, when we are talking about other European countries, there were colonies. So when we have adopted this particular flag, it was a symbol that we are getting independence. We are actually being free of that particular colonial chains. So that is why the countries which were having this colonial influence over there, for them also we became kind of an inspiration. So that is why our first Prime Minister said that this flag of freedom is not only a symbol of freedom for ourselves, but for all those people who are aspiring for it. Okay. Now moving further, what happened in the Constituent Assembly on the 22nd July 1947. Okay. So the event was, at that particular day they have actually adopted the national flag. But obviously, when we are talking about the start of the day, they have convened at the time nearly about 10 a.m. The date, that 22nd of July. Location was the Constituent Hall, New Delhi, and the chair of that particular assembly was basically Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Okay. Now the discussion at that point of time, that has started from the 9th of December 1946. That is the first time from where when the Constituent Assembly met. After that, there was various discussions which were there. And when we are talking about this particular session, the agenda was the motion by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru about the flag. Now this motion contained that what kind of or how our national flag would look like. Okay. So that was there. The motion was adopted by the entire assembly standing. Significance, marked a pivotal moment in India's journey towards the independence. Now, as I told you, that particular motion has talked about the flag, how it would look. Okay. So here we have 3 you can say stripes here. One is of saffron color, second is of white color, third is of green color, and in between we have Ashok Chakra. Ashok Chakra, that it has been taken from the Sarnath lion capital. Here you will see this is the lion capital, and here at the abacus you will see there is this Dharm Chakra or the Ashok Chakra, which has been taken from that. And this is the kind of, you can say, a symbol of you can say progress and continuous you can say continuity in the economic as well as the well-being of our country. Okay. Now when we are talking about the saffron, this is the color of courage and sacrifice. When we talk about the white, it is color of peace. Okay. And then when we are talking about the green, that is the color of prosperity and the fertility. Okay. So that is how this particular when we are talking about the national flag, it actually looked like. When we talk about the proportions, so here we will see the proportion of the width to, you can say, length, or you can say length to width will be 2:3. Okay. So that is there about our national flag. Now when we are talking about the evolution of the design, okay, so the credit of our national flag is going actually credited to Pingali Venkayya, a freedom fighter from Andhra Pradesh. Here you can see there is this ticket which has also been issued, postal ticket which has also been issued is in his name. But again, before that also, before his design was selected, before that also there was various designs which has came into picture, and they have changed from time to time. The color of bands has actually changed, and you can say earlier we have this charkha in the center of the flag, then that was actually replaced with the chakra. Okay, so all these changes has happened. Here you will see that initially in 1906, this is also an unofficial flag, you can say. In 1906 we have this design over here. You can say there are 3 colors, that is green, yellow and red, and we have a crescent over here and then a sun over here. Okay, this was unofficial flag of India in 1906. In 1907, this was the first time when Madam 𝐏𝐤𝐬𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐥𝐢𝐬 in 1906 actually on the foreign soil hoisted the flag of India, that is under the Berlin Committee flag. Here you will see they have changed the color and their pattern over here. They have gone for the saffron, yellow and here green. Okay. Then in 1917, at the time of the Home Rule movement by Annie Besant and the Bal Gangadhar Tilak, they have gone for this particular flag. Here you can see there was this sign of British India. Then there were the stripes or the bands which has been in the red and green color. And here you will be see there is Saptarishi, the 7 stars. They were also there in this particular, you can say, flag. Okay. Then coming to the next one, here you will be seeing 1921. Here the flag unofficially adopted in 1921. Here white, green and red bands were there. Okay, and there was a charkha in the center. In 1931, here you will see the flag adopted in 1931. This was INA's flag. Okay, Indian National Army. Okay, so there was this saffron, white and green. Then here you will be see there was this charkha. Then in 1947, when we are talking about when the flag was adopted actually as a national flag, here you will be seeing we have the color combination was same, but we have gone for the charkha in the center. Okay, so that is how you will be seeing there was this various changes in the design which has happened, and finally we have adopted this one. Okay. Now moving further, here you will be seeing there are certain guidelines for the use of the national flag. So we have the emblem and the name. Prevention of Improper Use Act 1950 prohibits the improper use of the national flag for the commercial purposes or a trademark. Okay, so you cannot use it as a for a commercial purpose or as a trademark. Okay. Then moving further, the Prevention of the Insult to National Honours Act 1971 to ensure prevention of discussion or insult to the national flag. Prohibition in intentional disrespect, including burning, mutilating, defecting, trampling upon the flag. Okay, so these are certain things which you cannot do in any way. Then the Flag Code of India is there. In 2002 we have come up with the Flag Code of India that actually talks about the guidelines with respect to the use of flag, prescribe the guidelines for the display and the handling of the national flag, details the circumstances under which the flag can be flown and the manner in which it should be respected. Okay, so that is given in the Flag Code of India. So that is about, you can say, National Flag Day and the national flag, how it came into picture, what changes has been there, and finally we have actually adopted a particular design. We have talked about that. That is the present design of our flag. Now moving further, that is basically what is court's split verdict. Recently there was this case with respect to the genetically modified mustards which has gone to the court, and with respect to the approval for the environmental release of these particular crop. Okay. At that particular discussion in the Supreme Court, the judges of the Supreme Court, they had a view which was contrasting with each other. They have not been able to come to a consensus. This was a 2-judge bench. Okay, so whenever there is a 2-judge bench or any kind of even numbers of judges are there in the bench, and if they do not come to a consensus and then the 50% of them say yes and 50% of them say no, that is called a split verdict. Okay, so recently it was in news, so we will talk about that and we will see what happens when there is a split verdict. Okay. What is the split verdict? It occurs when a bench with an even number of the judges cannot reach to a unanimous or the majority decision. Okay. Then what happens next? Once you have got the split verdict, what will happen now? So now this case will be referred to CGI, and CGI will constitute a larger bench. Okay. So that will be there. So when a split verdict occurs, that the case will be referred to a larger bench for a final decision. In this instance, CGI will decide on the formation of the new bench, that will be larger bench to hear the matter. Now importance of the bench size. Now most of the time we know that to avoid the split verdict, we will go for a larger bench that will be more than of you can say 2 judges. So ultimately you will see there will be 3 judges, or they will go for the odd numbers most of the time. But there are certain cases wherein you cannot go for the odd numbers. When we talk about the smaller benches, or when we talk about the division benches in Supreme Court, there are various kind of benches. One you can identify as the division bench. When we talk about division bench, generally it is consisting of 2 or 3 judges. Okay. Then there is this constitutional bench. When we talking about this constitutional bench, that will be larger bench. Most of the time you will see that mostly 5 or more judges will be there in the constitutional bench, because in the constitutional bench they will actually refer to the matters which are of the constitutional or the huge importance. Okay, that is why the larger bench will be there. Okay, so that is the importance of the bench size. To avoid the split verdicts, bench for the significant cases usually consist of odd numbers of the judges. However, 2 judges benches, that is division benches, are still common. Now type of benches in Supreme Court, we have talked about division bench and we have talked about the constitutional bench. Here you will be saying most of the cases before the Supreme Court are heard by the division benches. 2 or 3 judge members will be there. If a case is likely to have a larger national impact or likely to decide on the law for good, constitutional bench is formed. This will consist 5 or more judges of the Supreme Court. Okay, the constitutional bench gives an overarching view on the question of law and defines a path the law will take in future. Okay, then there is this article 145 clause 3 of the Indian Constitution, which makes it clear that it says that any case involving a substantial question of law as to the interpretation of the Constitution must be decided by the bench of at least 5 judges. Okay, when we are talking about the bench, who will decide? There is this CGI, that is basically the roast master of the Supreme Court. He will decide on the benches and the matters, etc. Okay, now moving further, here you will see in India these benches are temporary and they are dissolved once the legal question is sorted. A larger bench is constituted either depending upon the importance of the issue or if there is a need to review the judgment of the bench. Okay, so let's say if there is a issue of you can say issue which is of huge importance, in that case there will be a larger larger bench. Otherwise, if there is a judgment which has already been given by, let's say if there is a judgment which has been given by the 5 judge bench, okay, so to review that particular judgment there will be a larger bench, that let's say of 7 judges. Okay, now moving further, to date the largest ever constitutional bench was of 13 judges. Okay, and that was 𝐏𝐤 𝐏𝐵𝐻𝑎𝑟𝑡I. You know that this 𝐏𝐤 𝐏𝐵𝐻𝑎𝑟𝑡I judgment is of immense importance for the aspirants. Okay, so this 𝐏𝐤 𝐏𝐵𝐻𝑎𝑟𝑡I judgment, there was the largest bench. It was consisting 13 judges. Okay, so that you can remember for your own good. Now moving to the next part, that is basically right of an accused to be forgotten after acquittal. Okay, now let's say there was a criminal offense which has been alleged against a person. Okay, let's talk about dowry. Okay, so there is this husband on which there was this charges of dowry which has been put forward, and then after that court realized that, or court actually acquit this particular person, that they realized that he did not commit any kind of crime. Okay, but the thing is, the kind of media presence we have, the court has got the attention of the media and this news was everywhere. Every person knows that that particular husband is there and he was involved in that particular case. Now after the acquittal, the coverage actually stopped, because obviously once acquittal is there, case is closed now, but still there are certain perspective which has been made by the media in the minds of the people with respect to that particular person. Now we are talking about the right of an accused to be forgotten, so that these media presence, or you can say whatever videos or the you can say substance which has come on the online platforms, that can be removed by that. Okay, so there is this, they are talking about the right of an accused to be forgotten after the acquittal, when there is no charges, when the charges are actually not been justified in against him. In that case acquittal has been given, and in such cases he has the right to be forgotten. Okay, now the thing is, this particular thing in India, when we are talking about, we don't have such thing in India, that a right to be forgotten. But the thing is, there are certain you can say laws which are talking about it when we are talking about the data protection laws, etc. But they are referring it, but this is not a right as of now. So there was this case in which the Supreme Court was asked, or you can say a person was asked, they have asked the Supreme Court to go for such rights. Okay, so that is why this particular thing was in news. So we will talk about that. Let's see. Right of an accused to be forgotten after acquittal. Okay, the definition when we are talking about the right to be forgotten, the definition is basically the right to be forgotten allows the individual to have publicly available personal information removed from the internet, search engines, database, website, or any other public platforms. So basically whatever is there on the internet, that is to be removed. That is basically they are talking about under this particular right to be forgotten. This allowed a person that he can on his request, these platforms will have to take down the personal information which is there on that particular platform. Okay, now moving further, this right applies when the personal information is in question no longer necessary or relevant. Okay, let's say there was this case, now that case is gone, now this case is not relevant because court has gone for the acquittal. Okay, so in that case this information is not relevant anymore, and that is why this person should have such right. Okay, again I am saying that this person should have such rights, but the thing is we don't have such right as of now. Okay, now moving further here, comparison to right to privacy. When we are talking about the right to privacy, these are basically the information that is not in the public domain. Okay, right to privacy deal with certain things which you don't want to tell to someone. Okay, and that right should be there, and that person should not be forced to do that. Okay, so that is right to privacy. And right to be forgotten, now we are saying that there is this information which has reached the public sphere. Now we are saying that that has to be removed from the public sphere. Okay, when we are talking about the right to privacy, we are saying that that information is with myself and I'm not willing to give it away. Okay, if I'm willing to do it, I can, otherwise I'm not forced to. Okay, But when we are talking about right to be forgotten, that means that information is already out. Now I'm telling you that please remove that information. Okay, it deals with the publicly known information, aims to prevent the third parties from accessing that particular information. Okay, so that is about the right to be forgotten. Now, right to be forgotten in India, when we are talking about in the legal context, as I told you, there is no specific law in India with respect to that. Now, on the basis of, you can say, you can go to the court will decide that is not kind of a, you can say, fundamentally exclusive right to you, but court on the base of the case they will decide on this particular thing. Okay, here recognized under the Personal Data Protection Bill 2019. Okay, when we are talking about this particular Personal Data Protection Bill, they have actually gone for the recognition of that. Okay, now moving further, the link to the right to privacy among the fundamental rights entitled to the you can say Indian citizen. Now, since when we are talking about the right to privacy, that is a fundamental right. Now I'm telling you that if I'm willing to give you information or not, that is my personal right, that is my right to privacy. So that right to be forgotten should also be a fundamental right under this particular privacy. So that is there. So you can say that it is linked to the right to privacy. Okay, so under which you might actually approach the court, wherein court will decide on the case to case basis whether this is supposed to be given or not. So there are various cases wherein court has actually removed certain information from the internet. But when we are talking about such things, once there is an FIR, once there is a court case, that becomes a record. Okay, so in such cases there is it is not possible to go for such right to be forgot, because again these court cases act as precedents, etc. So that is why it becomes difficult. So that is their future implication. If we are going to implement this right to be forgotten, if implemented, a citizen would no longer need to file a case to request the removal for the information from the search engine. So basically here they are saying that once it is becoming particularly a right, or it has been implemented, after that you don't have to go to court for every request of such removals. So that is there. Okay, so I hope that is clear. When we are talking about the right to be forgotten, that means that there is an information which has to be removed from that particular public sphere or the internet. That is basically your right to be forgotten. Okay, India specifically, we don't have such a right as of now. Okay, it can be linked to the right to privacy. Now moving further, we will be talking about certain question for you. So let's see. Which article of the Indian Constitution defined the budget? Article 110, 112, Article 117, or none of the above. Okay, so you can attempt this question and answer the answer in the comment box. Second, a joint session of the Parliament can be called for which the following type of bill. Okay, so for which kind of bill basically you can call for a joint session? Ordinary bill, money bill, constitution amendment bill, both B and C. Okay, so here they are asking you for which bills you cannot call a joint session. Okay, now question number 3, who is credited with to the design the national flag of India? Okay, so basically who was the person who has designed the national flag of India? 𝐵𝐾𝐒 𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐥𝐢𝐬, Pingali Venkayya, Prem Ras Bihari Raizada, and Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, so you can attempt it. Now question number 4, who decides the formation of new larger bench in the case of split verdict in the Supreme Court? Prime Minister, Chief Justice of India, President of India, Attorney General. Okay, now question number 5, and that will be the last one. What does the term right to be forgotten refer to in this context? Here, the right to erase the one's criminal record, the right to remove personal information from internet, right to anonymity in the public spaces, right to a retrial in the criminal cases. Okay, so basically they are talking about the you can say right to be forgotten. So one is right to erase the criminal record, second is right to remove the personal information, right to anonymity, and right to retrial in a criminal cases. Okay, so you can answer in the comment box. You can attempt this question, read them carefully, and then you can answer in the comment box. Okay, with that I would like to take your leave. I'll see you in the next episode. Till then, have a good day. Thank you, and if you have not subscribed the channel, please subscribe it.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.